Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys, I'm going to be profiling for you my Evilswarm deck. Yes, I know, some of you guys are out there saying, Seto, I thought you would hate Evilswarm because it hurts Blue Eyes White Dragon. Well, I agree with you, and I don't like Evilswarm sometimes. I do like Evilswarms because the fact of the matter is they are a stun anti-meta deck. Now, I hated them back in 2013 when they first came out. In that evil format of Dragon Rulers and Spellbooks, it just wasn't a fun combination. But, flash forward to 2016, I do like the deck. It's a good rank 4 deck that has the ability to stun your opponent and do things of that nature. So I do like it because of that reason. So without further ado guys, we're getting to the deck profile. I am testing out some cards in the deck to try and make it a little bit more anti-meta, and we'll get more talking into that as I get into the deck profile. So it's pretty straightforward. So first off, you run your 3 Evilswarm Caster, which is pretty much your Polex, like in, what deck was that? Constellars, I believe it is, back in the day. So pretty much you normal summon this, you special summon, it's like a Marauding Captain type of card. You normal summon, you special summon another Evilswarm monster, and then you go for your Evilswarm Ophion. Pretty simple. But yep, your 3 Caster. Then you run your 3 Kirkleon, which gives you an extra summon. Kirkleon's probably one of the best because of that reason. You can get another summon off of him. But him and Castor are definitely 3-ofs in any build of Evilswarms that you want to build. No matter which way you want to take it, those are 3-ofs. As well as 3 Heliotrope, which we'll talk about in a second here. So I also run 3 Evilswarm Heliotrope. Heliotrope is just your vanilla 950 beat stick, as well as your Rescue Rabbit target, as well as another target that I run in the deck as well, which we'll talk about in a second. So I definitely like the one Rescue Rabbit. Yes, sometimes it can be dead. I do run one unexpected die, so sometimes you can use maybe a third, Evilswarm Heliotrope or whatever the case may be, or you can recycle Heliotrope back in the deck with Infestation Infection that I run as a one of. So there's different ways you can run it. So it does have some versatility, but the Rabbit is the main reason you run it because it's an instant rank 4 and usually an instant Ophion. So yes. Another thing I'll mention to you guys is I was trying to make this deck be, for the most part, be a first turn Ophion with maybe 2 to 3 back row. That was the goal of this deck, and it works out pretty well that way. So next up we have 2 Evilswarm Mandragora. This is the original hat trigger, Performer Power hat trigger of Yu-Gi-Oh! This is the original Performer Power hat trigger because it literally has the same effect as hat trigger, except the additional effect hat trigger has. So if your opponent has more monsters than you do, you special summon this guy. That's all you do. Opponent has more monsters, you special summon him to the field. If you have no monsters on your field, that is. But you run that because you can sometimes, I've got clunky hands like this where, oh my gosh, I got a Heliotrope and I got this. Well, special summon this, normal summon this, Evilswarm Ophion, got some back row in my hand, you're good to go, baby. So definitely the 2 Evilswarm Mandragora. I will say, and this was a thing I was talking about with a friend at Locals who plays Evilswarms, and I was talking with some other buddies of mine, and just playing the deck and watching what it's done throughout the years. The good thing about Evilswarm Mandragora is it's really good if you're going second. If you're going first, and you know you're going first, it's not as good, because the fact of the matter is it can be dead in your hand. However, with Allure of Darkness back at 3, I do sometimes find myself banishing this for Allure of Darkness fodder, just to draw deeper into my deck and get more cards go off. So while it is good going second, it's not a great card going first. So do keep that in mind when you're side decking, because sometimes that will play into your side decking cards that you side deck into. And no, I do not have a side deck with me right now, but we'll talk about that as I get into the trap lineup and spell lineup a little bit more here shortly. Next, I run 2 Evilswarm Thunderbird. Thunderbird is really, really good in combination with Drowning Mirror Force. Really good card in combination with this card. But Evilswarm Thunderbird is really, really good in the deck. Works out very well because you can dodge things and whatnot, which makes it awesome. It's another rank 4 target. It's another Allure of Darkness target, so multiple good reasons to run that card, and it's just a good card in general. For your hand traps, you run 2 Max C. Max C in this deck is a staple because you need to draw to your cards, get to your combo pieces, get to your floodgates, whatever the case may be. And we also run our 2 Effective Veiler because if there's one thing I've learned from playing freaking Evilswarms for the last, since April, when I brought the deck originally and built it, is the fact of the matter is monster effects like Castell can wreck your day. So you want that effect failure to stop stupid things like that can wreck your day with Evilswarm Ophion. Ophion's really good, but it really has problems with monster effects. So you want to run things like effect failure in your Solemn Brigade, which I run. So 2 of that and 2 max C for combo-oriented decks, and a lot of special summoning out there nowadays. For draw power, we run our 3 Allure of Darkness, pretty staple in the deck. It's a dark-based deck except for your hand traps and your 1 Evilswarm Bunny. I mean, everything else is dark. So run Allure of Darkness, my friend. I was trying it as a 2 of just to see, even after the ban list, because I said, well, do you really want to banish your Evilswarm stuff? But the fact of the matter was, when I was getting like double Heliotrope in my hand and I had Allure of Darkness, it worked magnifico. So I do like the triple Allure of Darkness. I've seen other people run engines with, you know, Card of Demise, Pot of Desires, things of that nature. Me personally, I prefer Allure of Darkness because it works better in a dark-based deck, along with Upstart Goblin and just the consistency the deck's been having. Me testing it, it works out pretty well. You don't need no more. Pot of Desires is good if you want to run it in the deck, but because you run a lot of 3-ofs, but that's up to you to decide. Next, I run 2 Infestation Pandemic. Some people like this as a 1-of, some people like it as a 2-of. I still like this card as a 2-of in the deck, because the fact of the matter is, it just gives you, it's a Forbidden Lance type card for all your Evilswarm monsters. Be it Evilswarm Ophion, be it Evilswarm Bahamut, whatever the case may be, it's pretty good, especially when they try to bait it out and you have double of them, or whatever the case may be. It just creates a board where you're not going to be destroyed by spell traps, and if you have an effect failure in hand, you can, or max C in hand, and then you draw into effect failure, it can usually mean GG, because you're literally locking your opponent out of the field. If you get this in an effect failure in hand with an Ophion on board and maybe another back row, you're pretty good to go. If it's like a strike or a solemn or whatever, a good just trap card, you're usually good. It could ruin your opponent's day. But it's a Forbidden Lance, quick play spell. It's too good not to run out 2-of. Next, 2 MST, just to help with floodgates in case you run into them, like Vanity's Emptiness I run into sometimes, and just stupid stuff like that. I did try Twin Twister out in the deck. It was, you didn't get no really benefits off sending your monsters to the graveyard, so I kind of said no to Twin Twister. I did try Cosmic Cyclone, which actually worked out pretty well. Not Cosmic Cyclone, what's that new? Yeah, it's not Cosmic Cyclone. Oh, yeah, it is Cosmic Cyclone. I'm thinking of something else. The new card that just came out of Dark Illusions, that quick play spell, you pay 1,000, banish a card on your opponent's spell or trap card on your opponent's field. I don't think it's called Cosmic Cyclone. I forget. I have the card. I just forgot it. But you could run that because that works good in anti-meta type of strategy, because if your opponent has like a Cosmo Town or something stupid like that, you can just be like, okay, banish that Cosmo Town. You don't get the effect. You're good to go. So you could run that, and I did try running it in the side deck, and it worked out pretty well. So depending upon your matchup, I mean, I even ran into an Artifact player one time online. I was like, oh, dang, we'll put these in here, and we're good, man, we're good. So it's a good idea to maybe keep those cards in the side deck. Your side deck's your best friend in this deck, for this deck. For your 1-ofs, we run these, which I'll talk about in a second here. So make sure I got them all on screen. Yeah, we good. Okay, so I run 1 Regeki. It's a non-targetable removal. Good. Instant Fusion, because the fact of the matter is you have Nodin, you're a rank 4 deck. Why not run Instant Fusion? Sometimes it can be dead because I do run 1 Macrocosmos as a tech card in the side deck, or in the main deck. So sometimes you switch it out if you want to add in a D-Fissure. I mean, it's up to you, depending upon your matchup. Sometimes you just want to say, okay, I'm going to go for Ophion. I'm going to use my anti-meta cards like Soul Drain and D-Fissure and Macro, and then I'm going to lock you out, things of that nature. Rhoda, because Caster is one of your best cards in your deck. Upstart Goblin, more consistency, making it a 39-card deck. It's good things. Unexpected Die. Some people run this as a 2-of, some people run it as a 3-of, some people run it as a 1-of. It does sometimes cause roadkill for Rescue Rabbit, I will admit that, but the fact of the matter is, this has helped me so much. If I just have 1 Evilswarm in my hand, or whatever, and I have an open board, I can be like, okay, Unexpected Die, go off, get my card out in the field, my vanilla Heliotrope out on the field, normal summon the other Evilswarm monster, go for an Ophion, set maybe 2 back row, and I'm good to go. So yeah, it's a pretty good card. I really do like it as a 1-of in the deck, as a little tech. I tried it as a 2-of. You can run it as a 2-of if you want. It works out perfectly fine. I just cut it down to 1-of for other cards, like Effect Veiler and Max C, which will help me out a lot more. So, your yin and your yang, you know what I mean? Then we run some traps, some 1-ofs, so we'll talk about these 3 1-ofs right here. Sorry about that. We have Macrocosmos. Now, Macrocosmos somewhat contradicts with the deck somewhat, with Kirkleon and just some other cards out there. So, I mean, it's up to you if you want to run it. However, I found in matchups like against BA and whatever's out there, Macrocosmos is a blowout, as you should know, against those cards. And it's one of the reasons why, even though I don't have my side deck with me at the moment, you can also run things, which I'll talk about in a second. If you didn't want to run these 1-ofs, so say these are 2 side deck cards I do run in my side deck. I just don't have it together with me at the moment. But you can run things like Dimensional Fissure and Eradicate Epidemic Virus, because Eradicate Epidemic Virus, your Ophion's 250. You have, with Eradicate Epidemic Virus, you have Ophion as a target, you have Master Key Beetle, and you have Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon as targets for this. So if you're going against a Pendulum deck, you side this card in. If you're going against Burning Abyss or something that's a graveyard-oriented deck, you side this in. You side deck your side deck cards, your 15-card side deck in, for the matchups that are prevalent in that meta. Right now, Evilswarm will take care on its own with Soul Drain and maybe a macro. And cards like Vanities, it'll lock out Blue Eyes. If you're going against a BA matchup, well, what you do, you take the cards that are not going to be effective against BA and put in your BA hate. If you're going against a certain deck that you're going to have trouble against, you put in those cards that are going to make it hurt better. You can help your matchups by going into your side deck. I'll just say that. But I do not have it together at the moment, and I do apologize. But macro, good. Vanities is a good. You create your Evilswarm Ophion, you get maybe a Forbidden Lance out. I mean, you just have good locks with it. Eradicate Infestation. I was running this originally when I first built this deck back in April, May, and all the way to June probably. I was running 2 of this card. However, I found that the fact of the matter is, you can actually search it out with Ophion because it's an Infestation card, and for that reason, that you can search it out through Ophion, I found it was good. But if I got cloggy hands and I was able to make an Ophion and I searched this out instead of the Lance, or I drew the Lance, I mean, different scenarios. The fact that it was searchable meant I only ran it as a 1-of. It's a great card because the fact of the matter is, if you get these dead, cards in hand, you can put one of your dead Evilswarms back to your deck. If you drew, 2 Heliotropes in the open hand, but you got Rescue Rabbit, well, you activate this and the other Heliotrope back, activate the Rescue Rabbit, get another, Evilswarm monster you want to get. Combos like that. So I do like it as a 1-of. Vanities is good just on its own, guys. So that's enough about that. 2 Drowning Mirror Force, because if your board gets wiped and you're going to need some time to rebuild your resources, and this works good with Thunderbird, like I said, but it's also just a good card. I tried Quaking Mirror Force in the deck, which is a good card, don't get me wrong, but in this deck particularly, I like Drowning Mirror Force a lot because it just helps out if your board gets wiped and they run into a Drowning Mirror Force, where sometimes you have these hands where you're like, well, I can make Evilswarm Ophion, but let me just set 4 back row and see if my opponent will run into that, Quaking Mirror, that Drowning Mirror Force, which I've had people do. They're like, oh, dang, he's got a clear board. Let me attack him, into that 2 or 3 back row. And, oh, Drowning Mirror Force hits you, and you're, like, sad. And then you go Evilswarm Ophion, lock them out with your Solemn cards, and you're just like, good. So, good card in the deck. For your Trap Hole cards, because I do run Rafflesia, I run 1 Floodgate Trap Hole and 1 Bottomless Trap Hole. Now, up until probably a week or 2 ago, I was running Chaos Space Trap Hole. However, I found myself finding the card was very good with Chaos Space Trap Hole, because I do own the card. However, I've just been testing out Floodgate Trap Hole because Chaos Trap Hole was sometimes dead. I found, because with my Solemns, my me taking damage and everything, it just felt like it was a little bit off balance with how many life points I was sacrificing. So I tried Floodgate Trap Hole out, which was actually worked amazing. Because if I drew this card was never dead, and it was actually pretty good because I could put my opponent's monsters face down upon summoning. It works against Pendulum decks. It just puts them face down, and I've had opponents go Pendulum summon 5, put put them all face down. Let me draw some cards to try to get the cards I need, and then I'll go off on you. So it's really, really been a good card against the Pendulum matchup, which sometimes Evilswarm does have a problem against. I mean, granted, you do have Bottomless, and you do have this card. So these are two of your main decked Pendulum outs right there. Because this is a really good card against the Pendulum matchup as well. So that's what I find. I mean, it depends what Pendulum deck you're going against. If you're going to into a rank 4 Pendulum deck that just makes rank 4s and like raccoons and stuff like that, I mean, you get what I'm trying to say. It's just a good 2 cards to have, and I just like them. Lastly, I run the Solemn Brigade, 2 Solemn Strikes, and the 1 Warning. You could run a 3rd Solemn Strike, but I just prefer the 2 Solemn Strikes and the Warning. This is the way I like playing my Solemn Brigade. It works out for me. Lastly, we'll go into the extra deck, guys, and we'll talk about it. So next, I run 3 Evilswarm Ophion. Great card. Locks things out, can search for your Infestation Pandemic and the other stuff. So yeah, great card. Good stun card. Then we run 1 Evilswarm Exciton Knight. That's not Evilswarm Exciton Knight because he's banned, and if he I'm playing with you. Evilswarm Bahamut, it's kind of like a mini Big Eye, so to speak. It does come in handy, and in certain situations this card can be handy, and I do like it as a 1-of in the deck. Then I run your 1 number 66 Master Key Beetle. It's a staple in this deck because you run so many Floodgates, and in Game 2 when you're bringing in your Floodgate cards like Eradicate Epidemic, your Pendulum Hate, your whatever the case may be, you lock them out with Master Key Beetle first turn, you're good to go. That's definitely a staple in the deck by hands down. Then we run Traptrix Rafflesia, Castel, Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon, Abyss Dweller because we do run Nodin, even though we run Macrocosmos, which I know is contradictory, but that's fine by me. Traptrix Rafflesia, you have trap hole cards that use this card. Castel, a good card. Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon, a good card. Abyss Dweller shuts down decks. Straight up, that is. Then we run 101. Steel Swarm Roach, which sometimes comes in handy. Cowboy for the win. And your Utopia Engine, as well as Nodin. So 101 is just a good another card to have. I find in certain situations with this deck it does come in handy. Steel Swarm Roach I've been testing out in the deck lately. Been working out pretty good. Cowboy, it's been working good. He wins games. This is an out to many things, and Nodin is your rank 4 playmaker for your deck, as well as helping you get beefy with Abyss Dweller. So can't say no to that. So that is the deck, guys, in a nutshell. It's pretty straightforward because it's a stun-based deck. However, I'll say from personal experience here and whatnot, the real thing is, and I'm sorry I don't have time on here because my camera's about to die and I don't have the deck ready, but the side deck is pretty much the art to this deck. You build a solid main deck that will help you in Game 1. Game 2, you go to your side deck. And if you created a side deck determining what the meta is, what's going on, what you know people are playing, you'll be golden, because you have to remember what your bad matchups are, which are pendulums usually, and effect monster-based decks. Okay? Well, you have your main outs like that. You have your strikes for that, you got this for that, you got effect variables, you got your maxis for combo-oriented decks. So for the decks that are just, you have Maso Manos matchups up, so you side in your Light and Prism Mirrors for Blue Eyes matchup to make that a blowout. If you're running against pendulums, you run in some extra pendulum hate, like maybe anti-spell fragrances, and then you take some cards out in the side, your main deck for that, to combat that, maybe take some spells out that you don't need, and you're golden, really. However, I will say with anti-spell fragrance, which is a great card in this deck, the problem I found with that card is sometimes you want to make sure you go off with Allure of Darkness before you set your anti-spell fragrances. Because the fact of the matter is, when you set them, the deck becomes this grindy deck. But if you can grind out with your opponent, Evilswarms will win. So those are just my thoughts on the deck. The art is in the side deck, and finding good side deck cards to make this deck great in Game 2 and 3. But till next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember to always turn to the dark side.